Hello. Welcome to Why Not Both, the podcast all about how our multiple passions and interests shape our identity and our lives. My name is Pam Schaefer, and I am a musician and therapist in Los Angeles, and I also happen to be your host. This podcast is produced by Laura Studeris, and for this season, we've partnered up with Under the Radar magazine. If you like what you hear, you can hang out with us on social media. We are on Twitter and Instagram at WNB the podcast. And if you really, really like what you hear, please support us on Patreon. We are under Why Not Both podcast. When you join our Patreon, you get a whole bunch of really cool behind the scenes stuff and you get to chat with us. And that's pretty awesome. Thank you so much for your support, and I hope you enjoy our interviews. For this episode, we got to chill with a wonderful musician, Sigrid. I hope that you enjoy our chat. So hi, welcome to Why Not Both.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Well, you know, the usual internet talking about our friends who like burgers. The usual. How are you doing?
I'm good. I just got home from running some errands. I was buying some plastic boxes to have things in to organize my stuff.
Excellent.
That's what I just did. So now I'm very ready to talk about life and music.
Yes.
Now that I've organized a little bit. I love organizing.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so funny that you say that, because I was like, plastic bins. And I was like, oh, I wonder if she's organizing any of her gear, because that's the worst when you have like a bag of cables or something like that. And you're like, I know the thing I want is in here, but if I take one thing out, like everything's going to fall out.
Absolutely. Yeah. All the cables that are like not like well done.
Yes.
Makes me like, ugh. It's just my sound technicians. They get really like freaked out by like cables that don't look nice and neat.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you have to wrap them correctly. Otherwise, everything just goes horribly awry.
Actually, yeah. Speaking of, I remember when I lived in Bergen in Norway, cool city. When I started doing music and I was working with this sound technician, his name is Michael. Oh my God. I think he's actually the sound technician of Sondre Lerche, I think he worked with him quite a lot. But anyways, I credit him for giving me like a 101 course on how to do the cables. Yeah. And how to do it correctly to not damage the cables. And still from that day, I always think of our little course of like how to do it if I do it now. But yeah, good life wisdom to know. Treat your cables properly.
Yes. Well, especially as everyone's been recording from home. And now I think you're going to be playing shows again soon. But I was curious, like, how have you been like writing and recording at home, or like, what have you been up to? Because I was just like, protect the cables.
Protect the cables. I wish I could say that I wrote a lot by myself at home, but honestly, I feel creative when I'm with people. And I go to work and I go to the studio and I go with this energy in there, and it's a different space. And when I'm home, like in my couch, I don't often think about like, I want to write a song. I have all these ideas, but it's harder to finish it. Yeah. So there was definitely times quite often where I didn't feel very creative for the past, is it like almost 2 years now?
Time has no meaning. Time is kind of like when we were exactly on Zoom and you were mysteriously on your phone and computer and it sounded like we had entered the Twilight Zone. That's like how I feel about time. It's like,
that's a good description.
It's echoing and mysterious, and it lasts for a while, but you aren't sure what's happening. That's how time has kind of worked in the last while.
It never works in the way you think it works, in a way. And like when it's too slow, but sometimes it's then too fast again, and you never like get it quite right. Yes. In general, not just speaking of the past time, but like in general in life, I do feel like it's never, whenever you're having the great time, you just feel like the moment's just passing. It's past.
Yes. Yes. I guess time is kind of like the little like water thing on the shower where it's like, you can't get it right in the like the too hot, too cold. There's like a millimeter difference between like the two.
I love that analogy. That's great. But yeah, that's also tough.
That's interesting that a lot of your, like, it sounded like you had inspiration and almost kind of like little like songlets or little like ideas, but
yeah,
you know, you weren't with people. And so what's your process usually like then, I guess, when you are recording music? What does that look like?
it's a good mix. I think, I don't know, with everything, I'm probably like a little bit of both because I do need that serene, quiet, creative space as well. I'm not good if I have to meet like new people every day, new sessions, blah, 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 blah. I can do that for a little bit. And I think it's super, super fun. But then I often find these like few people and I'm like, can we just write a lot together?
Yeah.
And yeah. And then it becomes just super cozy and friendly. And I have a few writers and producers I've worked a lot with. I've had the honor of working with a lot in the past 2 years. Little bit right before the pandemic, like Emily Warren in LA. She's great. We worked a lot on the first album too. And then also Caroline Aylin, who's actually Norwegian, and Sly, who's a Danish producer. So yeah, I've been writing a lot with them. Yeah.
That's cool. And when you're writing with them, like were you writing out in LA or were you working like remotely with them, or what does that look like?
It was a good mix. I was in LA from January to March of 2020. So, yeah. I went back and forth 2 times. And yeah, both times, like first time I was like, let's go, cool. Like starting up the new year, I was gonna write and like travel, exciting. Second time I was like, ooh, what is going on? But we did manage to write a few songs. We wrote actually Mirror, my latest single.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. So that was written with Emily Warren and Caroline Hagen and Sly over there in LA. And then when everything shut down, I was in Norway, up north, far, far north in Norway, with my boyfriend and trying to write a little bit on the piano, but again, I didn't feel too creative, but I wrote a few stuff. And then when Norway and Denmark had this travel corridor in the summer of 2020, I went there to Copenhagen to write a lot with Sly and Caroline. So
Nice.
that's good.
Nice.
So that's kind of the story.
Yeah. And if anything, sometimes I was talking to someone about, gosh, I feel like I've been talking to everyone about this, that like everyone went through this period during the pandemic at some point when they were, I call it the potato time, where it's like, you just kind of didn't do anything. You were just kind of like a potato sitting there, like, what's it doing? You're like, I don't know, it's a potato.
Yeah, I was fully a potato. Yeah, I was like looking at Taylor Swift releasing like 2 albums, and I was like, well, I'm a potato. It was great though.
Yes, I think that like everyone, yes. And like,
I mean, it was not great, but like it was great being a potato listening to Taylor Swift's.
Bingo.
That was amazing. I don't know if you felt the same. Yeah.
I feel like, you know, people had to be carried through as the potato. My potato album was, wow, my potato album, that's a sentence, was Olafur Arnald's latest album. For whatever reason, I listened to that like every morning and just got really into this like mellow mystical vibe. And like I should tell Oli that at some point and be like, yeah, the licorice you sent me was great, but really it was your album. It was your album that like carried me through my potato period.
Were you in LA the whole time or?
Yeah, I'm one of the rare people that was like born here. There's
Where
not
were you born?
I was born in West Hollywood and I live in West Hollywood. Like I did leave at certain points. It's not like I just like always stayed right here, but like I can literally like walk to the hospital I was born at.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so like my parents live in the valley, and so it's, you know, I didn't quarantine with them though because I was concerned because they're older, and so I potted with like 3 of my friends. So for the first like several months of the pandemic, we were the only people that we could see, obviously. So it was like apocalypse summer camp. But
Okay.
it was that was such a weird period. But yeah, like I think being in LA, even like during my potato period, I didn't write either. But there's something interesting about even like taking ideas from here, and even if they have to gestate for a while, like taking them and going elsewhere. I don't know what it is about my hometown, but it does seem to inspire a very specific kind of idea.
So this is really interesting, given that you are actually from LA. I think you're the first person I've met who's from LA, like from West Hollywood.
Oh,
But I feel like every time I've been to LA, no matter the year, no matter the season, no matter what I'm doing there, if it's promo, writing, or a concert, something crazy always happens. Always. Every time I either like meet someone like famous, or
yes.
I I'm in the studio where I'm like, what is going on? Like something, always something crazy. And it, yeah, for me that's like the thing with LA and why I love it, because I feel like I always go out of there with a good story.
Yes, that's my friends who visit me are often like bewildered. They're like, is this what your life is just like?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Because I think it also is a bit, it can be a bit intimidating for me, at least, like a little Norwegian coming to LA, because it's always quite overwhelming. But do you feel like it's still overwhelming, like given like you've lived there your whole life, or?
I guess I didn't realize how strange it was here. Like I didn't realize how different it was until I started traveling and even going to other cities, which I'm sure you found, especially like when you get a flavor for a city when you're touring.
Mm.
LA has a very unique flavor, and I think it's just that people are open to possibilities. So like I just thought that absurd things happened all the time. I thought that that was just like how life worked, and then people were like, no, 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 like this is a really high number of absurd things happening.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's true.
I love that. I love that LA gives you good stories. That makes me really happy. I'm always like bizarrely proud of like my hometown, and I'm like, yeah, you're really shining. You're giving people a weird experience. I love
Well, that's good. That's the thing. Like, not always positive thing, but it's always a good story. And I can't remember who told me this, but like, I don't know, cheesy probably, but probably a writer told me this, of like, life is just like collecting good stories.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I was like, that's like, you'd want to put it on a pillow.
Or actually, was it my manager who said it? So maybe it was Elena, my manager. She's a legend.
I love that. I love that. Because yeah, like I mean, it is true in a way. That's why when you said like you wrote Mirror in LA, it's like it does yield a lot of stories, and especially when you're songwriting, because of course, like when you're sitting around and being like, well, I've hung out in the north of Norway for a few months. You're like, do I have any stories about that? And you're like, it was pleasant. I was safe, but that's not like, oh, I'm gonna like write a ton about that. But like having like a wellspring of stories from somewhere sounds like it would come in really handy.
Yeah. Oh, there's a reason why everyone go to LA. Definitely. I feel lucky I can come back to Norway and like hide out in my little
Yes.
cozy place. Yeah.
Yes. What was your experience, I guess, of like having that summer of writing, and now you're going to be out? Are you playing shows in like 2 weeks? Is that accurate?
Hell yeah. Oh, well, can I swear on the podcast?
Yes.
Okay.
With enthusiasm.
I'm just checking. I've burned myself on that before. I've said the name of a few bands on like radio, and I've been like taken off air, like, we're so sorry. Ah. Yeah. But I mean, that's probably the most rock and roll thing I've done in my career. So,
Amazing. Amazing. I love that.
anyways, yeah, last year, that summer in Copenhagen was really nice. It's one of the nicest writing experiences that I had.
Yeah.
So, Caroline is a Norwegian writer known for writing like really big songs like Don't Start Now, Dua Lipa, New Rules. Yeah. And she's Norwegian and she's from the northern Norway. She's so cool. And we just immediately got well along. And she is together with this Danish producer, Sly, who I also wrote a song in with because Emily Warren introduced us all. And because of travel restrictions, Emily couldn't come to Copenhagen naturally. So it was Sly, Caroline, and me on this summer camp in Copenhagen. And we would spend our days eating, drinking coffee, chilling, swimming in the ocean, and then like write a little bit afterwards.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was the dream writing camp. It's really, really nice.
Oh, that sounds like the ideal. I was like, I couldn't imagine a better summer.
It was good. And also I will say, like, not doing promo at that time, obviously, you know, the time that has been and the time we are in, it's strange and it's scary and it's difficult and it's been quite brutal, especially for the music industry.
Yeah.
But trying to look at the silver lining of it, as you know, you have to try. And I will say it was quite nice to make new music without having to constantly be on tour, constantly traveling, and always like you should be somewhere else than you are, and to be very present in that writing process was quite nice.
Right.
And yeah, something new for me, to be completely honest.
That's interesting what you said about like promo too, because I mean, technically, I'm like, I just thought about it. I was just like, oh yeah, it is stressful. And then I was like, wait, we're doing a podcast right now. Oh God, it's technically promo.
Nice. This is so nice. I really, and obviously I love meeting new people and talk and chat. But let's say if we were talking tonight and I had been in the studio all day, like,
yeah,
you know, getting all your feelings out and all, it's yeah, it's different then when you go in the studio because you are closer to being an artist.
mm-hmm.
That makes sense. And in that summer week, I was just feeling like I was just there to write songs.
Yeah, and when you're able to, I like what you said about like staying present. Where like when you're in that moment where you are, I was like, when you're in the perfect shower temperature, you're just like, okay, I'm here. I'm going to do the thing, as opposed to being distracted potentially by having to like talk about doing the thing or travel to another place or things like that. It's like, it sounds like you're able to just be present for the ideas and present for your friends. And that sounds like it would, frankly, just like one, it would be an amazing experience, but it would yield really good songs.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we made some cool stuff.
Yes.
Definitely. I'm very, very proud. Excited to show people.
Oh, like that makes me really happy. And it sounds like you're excited to be out touring again because like it does have to be a balance. Like it sounds like before maybe you were kind of like over touring in a way. Like if you're out and about that much that, you know, you got to really settle in and like spend time with your boyfriend and write songs. I'm like, now there's the balance of, oh, now you get to go back out again.
True. Again, back to our conversation on time of like, it's never just right. Like when you're touring, maybe it can feel like, oh, touring too much. And then when you're writing, then like, oh, I miss touring. And I don't know, that's just life. But yeah, I'm super, super excited to go back on tour. I think it'll be great.
Yes. Yes. I just thought of, we're kind of like cats where it's like when we're inside, we're like gazing outside. And then if you open the door, like the cat just looks at you like, what?
True. Yes.
Oh, we're all just weird cats.
Do you have cats?
I have a sometimes cat. My neighbor's cat adopted me. She just ran inside one day while I was getting a package and jumped on my kitchen table and started like meow yelling at me. And I was like, do you live here?
Very interesting. I like cats that do that, that they're like their own boss.
Oh, she's her whole thing. Like she clearly has a plan. She has an agenda. We're just all part of it.
I like it. I had my neighbor's cat is her name's Margie, and she does what she wants to do, but sometimes she will come into the apartment and it's very, very cozy. Yes.
And there's something very cozy about having a cat like napping in the same room as you that I'd never experienced that before. I'd never had a cat. And she'll sometimes come in and she'll want to say hey, but like her name is Begonia. She'll just like she'll just take a nap. Like she'll just like be like, hey, what's up? I'm gonna commandeer your couch. I'm like, all right, that's cool. You
Oh, dear.
yeah, it's just really nice. You look over and there's just like a snoozing cat. You're like, okay, that's adorable. Oh my gosh. I was just like, ah, Begonia. Um, did you find that you picked up any other interests during this time, or was it mainly that you got to kind of decompress and, in a way, like unwind when you got back, and then you got to expand outward when you were writing? Because some people have picked up either new interests or, interestingly, several people have told me that they ended up picking up old interests that they hadn't had time for previously.
Hmm. I am I think I probably fall into category two of picking up just I've always had like other hobbies as well than
Yeah.
music. It just haven't been time for it for the past 4 years.
Yeah.
So I mean I grew up hiking and skiing a lot with my family. And that was a big part of my childhood. But like I remember growing up, I wasn't like a super fan of every weekend going skiing. I was like, oh. But the older I got, the more I appreciated nature and getting that silence. And I remember, I think it must have been like 2019 or something. I had been on tour for months and months and like didn't really have a proper break. And then I got home. Well, I had breaks, but not like a proper long one. And I was home for a few days in my parents' house, and we went skiing, and we just started like tracking 200 meters from the parking spot, and then I couldn't hear anything, and I got so like choked up of like, whoa, just being in silence was so special. And like I hadn't had it for a really really long time, because just constantly being in cities and like not really being in nature. So yeah, I've been hanging out quite a bit in nature, skiing, hiking, and then I've been cooking with medium success. There's been no banana bread in this household.
I dodged the carb wave as well. Like everyone else is making like sourdough and banana bread, and I'm like, okay, I guess I could, but like I don't know if I'm that talented or have that amount of patience. Because also then once you bake it, what are you gonna do with like a whole sourdough loaf? Like then you have the pressure of like eating the whole thing, which I mean could be a good thing. Like,
You could put half in the freezer, I guess.
true. That is what I did. The one thing I baked, I did manage to make like a lemon loaf cake thing, and I ate like 2 slices and was like, great. Now I have the rest of this. And so I sliced it and froze it so that way I could have like slices at random. But I was like, I can't do this with like every baked good. Whenever I saw like on Insta people baking all the time, I'm like, how? Like, what are you doing with them?
Eat it. But that's nice. Was that like your hobby for the past time, or did you get up to new ones?
I got up to exactly what we're doing now, where I had started this podcast kind of on a lark like the year before, and my friend Laura hopped in as a producer because she's a music journalist and was like, "Hey, I'll probably be home for a few weeks. Do you want some support?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love that." Like, this is something like I think we've recorded over 85 episodes now.
Wow.
So my hobby became talking to creative people about the multiple things they're doing from my living room. It's a weird hobby.
Great. Well, I'm happy to be here. Is this the 86th episode?
I think so.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. And thinking about what you said about like being out in nature, that was the other thing is when trails reopened in LA, I was so excited because that whole being outside, and even though the trails like are in like LA proper, there's this comfort to being out in silence where there are certain trails where it's like you really just venture into the woods and into the mountains and it's like ta-da, nothing. And by nothing I mean no people. I mean an abundance of like not people essentially.
That's important too.
Yes.
But right now, what I want the most is like just to be in a crowd with like a lot of sweaty people and like, yeah.
Yes.
You should see. People listening should have seen my face now. I was crying.
You're like, oh my God, give me this. Yeah, because like it's all about balance because you need those moments where you're out and like you said that your eyes welled up like when you were out and realized that you were in the in the quiet, and it's almost like that you need that contrast where it can't all be that like you'd probably go a little bananas if you were only in the quiet, and I guess same thing if you were only in the sweaty crowds.
Yeah.
Where are you playing your first show at?
It'll be one in London. That's a bit of yes. There's one at Lafayette. It's like I don't know, a little intimate, cozy. Hey, I'm back.
No.
And then we're playing main stage Reading and Leeds.
Awesome.
Yeah. It'll be sick. I'm super excited. The whole band and crew, we're getting back together. We're going over. So it'll be really nice. And like we've been like walking in the woods with a distance and barbecues and stuff. That's what we've been doing. The band and crew to like just hang out. So now we're playing live.
I was like, that's so exciting that you get to like, I mean, it's wonderful to get to spend time outside of that, but now it's like you get to actually do, I almost said your job. It's interesting when I think about even jobs during this time about how like it's so important to do like what you do, obviously, that makes you feel like you. And I'm like, you get to do that thing.
True. And I think this time has made me realize even more that live is a huge part of my identity. Like I'm a live artist and I sing these songs that I write with my collaborators, but to be there and perform, and I get so much of my self-confidence from there. And yeah, it's been rough with life, but I'm so excited. I can see we're getting there, and yeah, going up on stage, it'll be good to just feel that energy from the crowd again. And it also makes you again remember that this whole thing is more than just that I'm on stage with my band. It's like everyone coming to see the show, and the songs that we have maybe hopefully mean something to people. And it just it makes it more clear when you do live shows, if that makes sense.
That totally does, because I liked what you said that you hadn't realized before how much of like it sounds like your identity is. Do you mean more as like a person or as an artist or even both, that like really like being out and performing is pretty integral to you, it sounds like?
Yeah, I'll say like, yeah, huge part of my personality, because I think I was very shy growing up, and I still am. I'm a bit introvert, and like I like my own space, and like as I've said earlier, like go away to Norway and like have my little cozy, very safe space. I like everything that feels like safe and stable. But then there's that part of me that's more like fuck it all up, like full adrenaline. I feel like the Hulk when I'm on stage, and there's another, it's still me, it's just another side of me that don't necessarily is that out there usually. Yeah.
Well, especially if that side comes out when you're on stage, if you haven't had time to like exercise that side of you in a long time, that must feel really strange to be like, let me out.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's like, get me on a stage. Yes. It's going to be a lot of emotions. I know that. So everyone's warned. I think I even said it in the caption of like, if you come to the show, be warned, like bring your little like bring a water bottle. Yeah, tissue, water bottle. It's going to be hot and it's going to be loud. And I'm going to cry a lot, probably.
Yes, that's one thing that a lot of people have been saying, is that they're like, yeah, just you're so grateful for being out there that a lot of people have been crying at their gigs, both like people attending and people performing.
Yeah.
That energetic exchange between you and the audience. It's not just, I mean, I think like we do get caught up in being like, oh, am I giving a good performance? Am I like technically on point? Like things like that. But it's like, really when you're performing, it's because you're like, oh, I want to connect with the people who are here.
Mm, absolutely.
And so, like when you were like, sweaty crowds, I was just like, yeah, the energy of a sweaty crowd because they're with you on those songs. And that feels very different than like when someone listens to a recording of you. Like, for instance, you're on my hiking playlist. Don't Kill My Vibe is totally on my hiking playlist.
I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So know that you've definitely soundtracked me like walking up one of the trails to the Griffith Observatory.
Power walking.
Exactly.
Oh, it's so nice.
It's like great song for that. And so, but it's very different to know that, for instance, like someone's experiencing your song that way versus when someone is like actually in the crowd giving you that energy back when you're singing. That feels totally different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's really cool when when like the crowd takes over and it's not even your show anymore. And everybody's like, okay, you guys keep running. And I'm just here to like play the soundtrack. And I love when that happens. I love having control, but it's also nice when I'm on stage and it's like, everything's happened. I like it. That's my favorite thing about live is that you can fuck it up.
Yep.
It's not that planned. And sometimes it's even fun, like make it even more spicy with like maybe you don't even have time for sound check.
Yep.
It happen.
I think that's just the extra spice thrown in, like sound check. What was that? We have no idea. Didn't even happen. That's a great way to put it also, that like in a way you're providing the soundtrack for the show and people are the ones that are guiding it. Because yeah, like what's that changeover like? Like how does that feel when you're on stage and then you realize like, wait a second, like everyone else is really leading this and I'm just kind of the conduit for it.
It's the best. It's the most euphoric feeling. I've blacked out probably. Yeah. I can't remember much from like, let's say the Glastonbury set we did in 2019. Mm-hmm. I don't remember much. I just remember walking on stage and then being a bit nervous for the first song. And then by the second chorus, like, woo! And after that, I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. I was fully like not drinking or anything. I just, yeah. You're blank.
I in the moment.
I'm in the moment, and it was really fun. And I remember there was this girl on the front row. Her name was Nina, and she was just crying. She knew all the lyrics, and BBC was like filming her all the time. And that was again one of those things where like she was kind of running the show, and yeah, it was really really fun. We met afterwards, so sweet.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh. That's adorable. I was like, what's it like? I guess what's it like interacting with people who interact with your music that way? Like, because when you're writing something, it's not like you're sitting around being like, yes, I will write this song to make people cry and hike up hills.
Like, well, sometimes I'm a bit calculated with it. Of like, I want people to feel this here.
Yes.
But then again, is it calculated? Because what if I want to like cater it to like, I want to cry here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get you though.
Because then you get to almost like, I was like, this sounds very meta, but like you get to experience people's experience of your music. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And it keeps getting like reflected back. And I'm like, has it ever surprised you the way that people have reacted sometimes to your songs where you're like, wow, I did not expect that.
There's been a few tattoos that's been crazy. I remember I saw on Instagram quite early that she tattooed DKMV, Don't Kill My Vibe, here on her lip. The inside of her.
Whoa.
Yeah. Ooh, I got yogurt.
Delivering yogurt, we love this.
We love it. Love to see it. But yeah, that was really cool, that tattoo.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, like when people, it's such an honor when people kind of like make art with your art. I don't know. I consider tattoos like a really interesting form of art because it's something like I personally don't have any, and I find it fascinating. Like there's nothing that I've ever like there are things that I like, but it's never been like I must put that on my body. So I find it to be a particularly fascinating art form that people like something so much that they're just like, onto my body it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think tattoos are really cool too. I don't have personally.
Yeah. It's a fascinating art form. And knowing that like something that you wrote was so impactful that someone not only wanted to tattoo it, but like tattoo it on the inside of their lip.
It's the biggest honor, really. It's, yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. Wow. I'm thinking about like, I love that you said, like, is it calculated that I want people to cry here, or that you want to cry here? And I was like, no, I think that's kind of like masterful because songs are these little vessels for emotions. And so thinking about it, it doesn't sound like calculating it in the way of like you're being malicious. It sounds like you're being calculating and that you're like, hey, if I want to express this emotion, how do I do that the best?
Absolutely. And that is songwriting. You know, I'm probably just saying it because it's songwriters, maybe, I don't have statistics here, but maybe more female songwriters or artists being like called out for being um what was the word I said?
I think
Uh,
it's calculating.
calculating, yeah, or calculated in like writing or whatever. And then I'm like saying it, but yeah, you're right. It probably isn't. It's just songwriting. It's just trying to tell a story in the best way possible.
Yeah.
And it's because I love performing live, probably, that I want the crowd to understand the feeling that I have. And if I have a feeling I know can be very relatable, because usually it is. When you feel something, it's usually other people feel the same way, or
Yes.
yeah.
That's what's so great about songs is that like because everyone I don't know if everyone feels this way, which is funny because of what I'm about to say. But I was like, have you ever like been experiencing a certain emotion and you're just like, oh, this is so weird. I bet like no one else has ever felt this. And you know that it's not true because you know that if you hop on the internet, like there's like a whole forum of people who felt exactly that way.
100%. I'm sure you have as well.
Yep. It's like there's no new feeling and like that's really okay. That's actually a good thing. Like, you're not alone in it.
Oh,
Whatever that feeling is. Like someone has had it.
true. Also, yeah, there's never a new feeling. It might be like, I don't know if this is a bold statement, but like with like songs, like we all get inspired by each other and we get inspired by things that have been like historically been going on for many, many years.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, all just, yeah, getting inspired by each other.
Yeah.
In songs.
And so it's a good thing when you're expressing one of those feelings to be like, how do I best get this across? Because in a way it is filtered through your own experience. But like those feelings are kind of universal. Like there's kind of this palette of feelings that we have that's a really big palette, but it's not like someone's gonna all of a sudden be like, here's this one feeling that no one else has ever had. It might be an experience, which that's what makes songwriting really interesting, is that you can write based on either your experience or like imagined experiences to capture those emotions.
True. But you know that feeling when you listen to a song? Oh, that this is so one point of like you listen to a song and the experience the writer had does not add up to the experience you had. But then there's like, and you're like, just listening, it's a nice song. And then there's like one line in like the bridge or something that just oh, what was that? Yeah.
Yes, I find that a lot. Like I saw this one meme of like, like people listening to Lana Del Rey, and it was basically like, someone in like smeared makeup, and it was like, listen to Lana Del Rey at 3 a.m. imagining I'm in these scenarios. And it's like just like, a Barbie doll in their bed with like a towel on their head, just like after a shower. And like it definitely that did speak to me in a way, because when we listen to these songs, any song, it's like we kind of in some ways empathize with the narrator, and then we put ourselves in their stories. And I was thinking about that in context of Lana Del Rey. Like I don't lead any kind of life like she sings about whatsoever. Like there's like no actual like content in her songs that like matches my life, but when I'm listening to them I'm like, oh, I totally get this feeling.
Absolutely.
And
That's
so
the beauty of it.
I find it fascinating when that happens with artists. Are there any artists that you have like that where you're like, I'm really different from this person and I'm different from the content, but also like I totally get this?
Oh yeah. The first artist I was thinking of when we started this thing was probably Neil Young
Ooh,
or or Bon Iver, but I think Neil Young. My dad is the biggest fan of Neil Young. He has a digital archive of Neil Young songs on his computer. Very impressive. It's like a really, really big collection of Neil Young stuff. Wow. Yeah. Anyway, so I grew up listening to him a lot, and it's like teenage girl in Norway, didn't really relate that much. But then there were certain lines in there. Oh wait, now I have to say. Let's say Harvest Moon, and he's talking about like there was something with like children sleeping or something. I'm like, don't relate. But then it's like, when we were strangers, I watched you from afar. When we were lovers, I loved you with all my heart.
Oh,
like, oh yes, that makes sense.
Oh,
yeah, it's really sweet. I don't know, stuff like that.
I love that also you found that in like that your dad is like a Neil Young super fan, and that you're like, all right, I guess this is what I'm listening to. But then you found these resonances, and then I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful.
True. But it's also nice. I love that about songs of like daydreaming. Have you seen this whole thing? I love every meme that's with I absolutely love Olivia Rodrigo, and the album is great. I think Jealousy is my favorite song. So cool. Yeah. But there's this meme of like, I'm in a perfectly healthy relationship, but when I listen to Olivia Rodrigo, and then it's like, I feel all these feelings, you're like angry and like, oh. Love that.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah, and like I was watching on TikTok that essentially it's all like, basically it's somehow that like Olivia Rodrigo brought together like Gen Z and then like this really interesting like slice of millennials where it's like finally we have made peace between the generations. That you can put yourself in the song like that. Oh, that's so true. Yeah, that album is great. Like that album, it kind of made me feel similar to like Lord Melodrama, where it's like listening to that album. Was I 19 and dramatic when that album came out? No. When I listened to that album, do I feel 19 and dramatic? Yes.
Yes. But we can still be dramatic even if we're not 19. That must be okay.
That's the quote of the day. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, like putting yourself into songs. And I'm curious, like, did your family listen to music often? Like, was that something that you all did together, or like, is that what kind of informed your musical background?
Yeah. My parents are not musicians, but we listened to a lot of music growing up. So it was Neil Young through my dad. And then my mom was a big fan of Joni Mitchell. So that was like very nice. And my brother listened a lot to rock. But then he also showed me Coldplay, which is my favorite band in the world. So yeah. And then my sister has been living in Spain for many, many years. So she has really introduced me to reggaeton, which is really cool.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's a varied mix. What about you? Did you grow up with music in the house?
I was like, everyone has their own lane. That's amazing. That's interesting you ask, because like, and also that you noted that like, you're like, oh, my parents aren't musicians. Like same, neither of my parents are musicians, but they're both what I would describe as like music appreciators. And they have very different tastes. Like my mom loves like show tunes and really like upbeat music, and like kind of a lot of almost like, I don't know, show tunes are like fascinating to me because they pretty much say their feelings, but they also sing their feelings. Like it's so like, it's like the feelings are turned to like a 10 on like every show tune song. There's no such thing as like a subtle show tune.
So what's the favorite? Do you have a favorite?
I really liked Les Miserables as a child. I don't know what that says about me, but I was very into that.
The drama.
The drama, especially like everyone was like, oh, so who do you like? And I thought I was like super edgy as a kid. I was like, well, I like Eponine better than Cosette. Like so angsty 7-year-old me. But like she really likes that. And then my dad loves classical music. So and like actual like classical era classical music as well as some Baroque music. So I would listen to a lot of like Beethoven and Bach and like so I'd listen to that with him. And then like he would occasionally play like and I got really into Chopin because he's not as into the romantics, but like I super dug that. And then my sister was into like Simon and Garfunkel and like folk singers and like Leonard Cohen and like so I got this weird melange of like
It's a cool mix though.
yeah, it ended up making it so that I think much like you, like it sounds like almost like your parents kind of were these complements of each other, but then your siblings really branched out. It sounds similar where it's like it made me very open to listening to like I'll listen to anything to see if I like it. Like I'm never gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna try that song. It's like I'll just go and be like, sure, like I'll check it out.
It's a really good character trait.
Thanks. I try. You never know if you're gonna like something. I mean, worst case scenario, you don't enjoy the song and you don't have to like listen to it again.
Sure. And then it's so simple to skip.
Exactly. It's not like even trying a food where it's like, you know, you have to like take a bite and your other option is to like spit it out, I guess. But it's like it's a really low investment.
I agree.
How was that like actually becoming a musician? Because I know that at least for me, coming from a family of not musicians, like I'm the only person that's really like kind of in the arts in my family and in like kind of like starting my own business kind of thing. Like, was that unusual for your family, or were they like, cool, we're on board?
I feel like there was always music in our family, and my brother is an artist as well. But also now he's like doing a PhD on media sociology and like the paper, like newspaper industry and stuff. So
Whoa.
that's what I'm doing now. But like my first tour ever was doing backing vocals for him on tour.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I want to talk to your brother now too, because that's I do music and then I do therapy. Like I'm fascinated
Ah,
with people who do like multiple things, particularly people who study like media and psychology and things like that, who are also creators. I was like, oh my God. Like shout
he's
out
your guy. I'll set you guys up. Yeah, he's great. He's really cool. And then my sister is a really great singer. She doesn't work in music, but yeah.
Oh my God.
She may be into it.
That's amazing. What was it like? Like that's so heartwarming. I'm like, oh, you started singing backup for your brother. That's so cute.
It was really fun. It was good. Ooh. I had to sneeze.
That was the most like adorable prelude to a sneeze, as though you were like, oh my God, oh no, it's arriving.
I'm prepared and muted. But
Awesome.
yeah, no, my family is super supportive. They're just cool. And I just think they're more surprised that I went into music because I was so shy growing up. That they're like, yeah, they're just very surprised when they saw me on stage, I think.
That's well, it's also, I think, like you said, that there's this other side of you, like that you realized was like a big part of your identity when it was actually when it had to kind of like, I don't know how to, I was like, go dormant or go into hibernation. Cause it's like, it was kind of a forced hibernation where we couldn't be out performing. But it's interesting that like, I know a lot of performers who off stage are actually pretty shy.
Mm.
Like, I don't know that many people who are actually, it's, I mean, it's just like incidental. I know the occasional very outgoing person who then on stage is very outgoing as well. But for the most part, it's people who on stage, like you said, almost like black out and like channel that energy. And then off stage are just like, hello.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that makes sense. No, I've heard that. I've heard that before too. I think there's probably something in it, but maybe that's because that more introspective side of you comes out. I mean, in songwriting,
Yeah.
and in songwriting, you're very in touch with your emotions.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I just
Yeah,
not yes, we get to be dramatic even when we're not nice.
exactly. Yeah, would you say that you are shy?
Oh,
Or
definitely. Like one-on-one, I enjoy talking to people so much, but I mean, this has been amazing because like I get to then like talk to people, like I said, in my living room. But like, for instance, at a party, are you the type that will like go up and talk to people, or do you wait for people to like come and talk to you?
Depends on the room. I'm more, I don't think I would walk up to people. No, I think I would wait if someone were nice enough to come to me.
That's
I don't know.
That's me.
Yeah, I would just probably try to like bring a friend or my band or something and just like stay with me.
I always am like, quick, find the bookshelf or the house pet. Is there a dog? Is there a cat? Can we hang out with them?
Locate the cat, find the kitchen window.
Bingo.
Two important things.
Bingo. And like I love going to, like, you know, if you're at a house party, especially like looking at the bookshelf, because that always, I mean, I love to read, but like that's always a decent conversation starter if you can look at someone's like bookshelf or look at something that like they clearly like. So at least you can talk to someone about like a thing. At least there's like a thing that you can mention instead of just being like, hello, you're nice.
Okay. Pro tip to anyone, if anyone is going.
What is your pro tip for partygoers?
Ooh. Get vaccinated.
I was like, we love that for us.
Yeah, we love that. But other than that, like in general, party pro tip. Oh, I'm gonna sound like such a grandma, but like I always bring a fresh pair of woolen socks wherever I go. Because if I'm cold, I don't want to stay at the party. I want to go home. So I just know if I'm gonna have a good time, I need to feel dry on my feet and like practical clothing. It's happened before where I've left parties because I've been cold and I've been like, I'm gonna get a cold.
Oh.
Yeah, I always bring more extra clothes and I look like a noob walking around with like a backpack or something with clothes. Like, might as well. Oh yeah, and always bring sneakers.
Oh my God. Yes.
I have sneakers with me. Sneakers and warm clothes.
There we go. I have a pair of like foldable little flat shoes for that reason. Yeah. Because that, smart. Yeah, I gotta have those. In LA, you drive everywhere, so you can just like shove stuff in your car. But if you are not in LA and cannot shove stuff in your car, or do not have a car in LA, which is also very reasonable, I love that. Like, have the spare pair of shoes. And I don't know if you've ever have Uniqlo there, like the Japanese Uniqlo.
I know Uniqlo. We don't think we have it in Norway, but yeah.
They have a jacket that literally folds into a bag. Like it's a little tiny bag, but it's a huge puffer coat. So if you're ever cold, you can actually bring clothes with you without stuffing them in a backpack by you just clip this little bag on, and then like it's like Mary Poppins, like a giant coat pops out.
Very interesting concept.
Yes.
I will Google this.
Yes, I was like, I want you to have this coat. I took it with me like last I was in Iceland because like you don't want to be carrying around a coat all the time, but also like you don't want to also then get like blown away with the wind.
Exactly, but that's so, because the most annoying thing is like having an empty tote bag and it's just there.
Yep. Oh my God. I was just like, you are speaking to me really with like bringing clothes to the party. Yeah. That's amazing.
Really? This is good information. Oh yeah, I'll take this with me. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing. I wouldn't have thought of the socks thing, but that's really key. I love that.
Yeah, I don't know. People are different. Some people get cold on their feet. Some people get like cold other places.
Yes, I'm an equal opportunist. I just get cold all the time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I guess like, what are you looking forward to the most about like the upcoming months?
Ooh. Dare I say, like, I hope we'll get in a better place.
That means
wood.
I was like, I'm knocking on wood too. That means more healthy people and more people who can share things that are not the virus with one another, but can share experiences like concerts.
True. Yes. I'm hoping for concerts, tours, being together, and yeah, being more social. I also, if I wasn't weird to begin with, I've definitely gone weird.
Welcome to the weird, my friend.
Yeah. It's a good place, but it's time to get back out.
Yes. Yes.
With our weirdness. But yeah. What are you the most excited about or hoping for?
You know, very similar to you. I'm really excited to kind of like connect with other people. Like it's been wonderful connecting this way, but really connecting in person is really different. And taking kind of the lessons that we've learned while we've been delving into our weird, and sharing them with others so that we can help others shine in their weirdness in other ways. Where it's like, oh, I figured out how to like, talk to people over the internet 80 times. Wow. What was that like? And you're like, cool. I went to this writing camp and I wrote all these amazing songs. Like, it's like taking kind of like, what did you learn? What did you delve into? And then being able to like share it with other people and then like see what they were up to. That to me is what I hope for, that there's more of that. There's more of that like connection back and forth.
Yeah. No, I agree. And hoping for more good discussions in person and not just over the comment sections as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes, like personal connection. And when you're talking about like the sweaty crowds, it's like that's a person to person connection. Because I think sometimes people forget that we're online, that it's like, no, you're talking to there's a person. Like there's a person on the other end there, just like you're a person.
Yeah. Absolutely. And also thinking more like when people are being mean on the internet, that I hope that we'll get on the other side of this and meet each other again with compassion and respect and understanding and yeah, trying to solve things.
Yes.
And I think that can sometimes be easier in person.
I agree. Because like, yeah, it's easier to have compassion when you actually see somebody and you're like, oh, they might think some different things than I think, but like they're just another person. Like they're not this like entity that I have to be like scared of, or this concept that's like been blown up in my mind. It's like, oh, they're just another person with like wool socks in their bag. Like I can get down.
Crazy concept, but yeah.
Oh, you've been so generous with your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been really, really cozy.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of Why Not Both. If you liked what you heard, please make sure to like us and subscribe to us on your preferred podcast platform. You can also come hang out with us on social media. We are at WNB the podcast, both on Instagram and on Twitter. This season, we are brought to you by Under the Radar magazine. Under the Radar is a nationally distributed print, music, and entertainment magazine and website. You can find them at www.undertheradarmag.com and feel free to support them on Patreon. Extra special thanks to our producer, Laura Studeris, who is literally a rock star. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you next episode.